Hello everyone, and welcome to Web2 versus Web3 key difference, or how I like to call it, a tale of Web3. An introduction into a world where the future is not just something you browse, but something you truly own and shape. But before we start, I have some questions for you. How many of you think about crypto when you hear the word blockchain? Did you wonder if there is more to blockchain than just another way to scam people on the internet? Is crypto the only use of blockchain? No? Okay. My name is Sipos, Eduard, and today I will tell you a story. At the beginning, when I was in the college, I heard a lot of people talking about blockchain technology. And I was thinking in my head, I was like, yeah, everybody's talking about Bitcoin. The only cryptocurrency that was back then. Everybody was mining it. I was already working as a software developer in Web2. And after a short period of time, COVID came, sent everybody home, and I started having a lot more time on my hand. So I decided that I will invest that time in researching a bit more about blockchain technology. I found out that there is a bit more to blockchain than just crypto. But before we get into what blockchain actually is, I would like to go with you guys into a history lesson regarding of how everything started. We started with Web 1. Web 1 was static web. It was all about consumption. Today you can find it in presentation pages or just simple pages that you are there to see and consume it. The challenge was that it was not interactable. So people were able just to see the information but not interact with it. So as a solution to that, we have Web 2. Web 2 or the social web. The social web is all about participation. And today it became so powerful that everything that surrounds us is built on Web 2. If we look around, we have social medias, we have our phones, even the street lights outside, they are all built on Web 2. Even our vacuums. If you have smart vacuums, those are also built on Web 2. Okay, but we also know that Web 2 is centralized and controlled. What makes Web 2 centralized and controlled? The short answer is this guy, or the hard drives. Actually, it's are the giant companies that own the center servers and databases. One of the giants in the market is the China Telecom Information Park that has like 1 million squares. It's pretty big. So, we know that Web 2 is interactive, it's centralized, and it's controlled. In the past couple of years, we have a lot of concern raised regarding the privacy of our data. And we all know that a lot of social media used our personal information and personal data to sell to advisors and advertisements. And this is not even the biggest issue that we face. We have our banking systems. All the banking system is held on Web 2. And in the banking, we have everything related to our money, our salaries, invoices that are coming there, mortgages. And for example, if someone would decide to close that bank, you will stop having access to your own money. And this is not something just theoretically speaking. We already have an example right next to our border, where Ukrainian banks frozen all assets for the Ukrainian people when the war came. Okay, so what would be a solution for this? A solution will be decentralization, or Web 3. Web 3, or decentralized web, is all about ownership and decentralization. Web 3 is decentralized, it's about trustless systems and ownership. Decentralization, specifically in Web 3, refers to a scenario where the power, control, and security are transferred from one central authority to several actors who manage the system of interest. I know, pretty big words. We will go into that. One of the technology that is powering Web3 is the blockchain. So we can say that the heart of Web3 is blockchain. So if Web3 is the body, then blockchain is its heart, pumping data, trust, and value through every part of the system. So let's see then what blockchain actually is. The short answer to that, it's a great data center. Okay, great, but now you may wonder how blockchain differs from the traditional data center. At the surface, they are the same. But let's dig deeper to see what is under the hood. A regular data center has a single point of failure. You can imagine it like one-headed snake, let's say. If you cut its head, it will die. Exactly like in a data center. If you unplug it, it will stop working, and all the data from there, it will get lost. Now, blockchain could be represented by a series of nodes, which each node represents one-to-one copy of each other nodes. Exactly like a multi-headed snake. Do you know how a multi-headed snake looks like? It looks like something like this, where each head represents a node. So if you cut one head, the other will still work the same. Even more, in time, another head could grow back, exactly like the blockchain. A new node can be added at any time. Another example of this, of centralized and decentralized, we can take, for example, the banking system. Everybody has their value in one place in the bank. And this is centralized because if some bad actor will decide to take control of the bank, everybody's asset will be at risk. In blockchain instead, we have everybody has a copy of one-to-one from the asset. So if someone will take access of one point, the other will still work exactly the same. So if you want to take control of a network, you will have to control 51% of the nodes. That's the only way how you will be able to change or alter the data from the network. Okay, now that we have an idea about how decentralization looks like, let's talk about ownership. To understand more how ownership works on Web3, let's take a Web2 example. We all have social media. We all have used email and password to log in, right? We are safe to assume that our email address is our online identity. Have you ever wondered where your email and password stored? Actually, I have a better question. Who is the owner of your email address? We all have been tricked into thinking that we own our email addresses, social media accounts. But the reality is that we only borrow them, and we are allowed to use them as long as we respect the terms and conditions of the platform. Okay, in Web3, we have something different. We have something called the wallet. In Web3, the wallet is our digital identity and our footprint. And a wallet is created from two parts. We have a public address and a private key. You can think of the public address like your email address. It's something that you share with everybody. So it's your identity. Everybody will know who you are based on your public address. The private key is like your password. It's proof that you are truly controlling the wallet. And just like a password, you should never share your private key. When you want to log in into a web platform, instead of sending your data account, you just connect your wallet. So all your information will remain in your control. The platform will only know your public address, and based on with your private key, you will be able to sign a transaction that will prove that you are the owner of that public address, and the platform will give you access to the information from the platform. Okay, having these two new terms, we have transactions and we have sign. A transaction in Web3 is just a set of data. It's some instructions that are waiting to be executed on the blockchain. The sign is the moment when you... Let me give you an example to be much more, to be able to explain the sign even much more better. For example, we have a transaction and we want to let's say, send a message to someone. And we write the message. The message that we have written is the transaction, the data and the transaction that you want to send to someone. The moment when we press the send button, and maybe we even confirm it with the Face ID, it's the moment when you sign the transaction. A key difference here is that in Web2, or when you send the message, you will be able to maybe delete it, or revert it, or change it, or edit it. In Web3, once you sign the transaction, the transaction will be sent to the blockchain, and you will not be able to alter it or change it anymore. So the idea behind is that once a transaction is signed and out there, there's no way to revert it or change it. Okay, what do we know so far? There's more to Web3 than just crypto. Web3 is built on blockchain technology, and blockchain is just a fancy word for a decentralized data center. Okay, let's see what other feature blockchain has. Blockchain also is transparent and secure. Blockchain is transparent because each transaction is recorded and saved and publicly available. So you can go to, there are multiple websites that allow you to see what transaction was executed on the blockchain. For example, we have Etherscan that will allow you to see all the transactions that happen on the Ethereum network. You can go there and see each transaction, and you can trace them to see who sent the transaction and where the transaction went. This proves the transparency of the blockchain. Okay, this is how a transaction looks like on Etherscan. I'm not sure if it's visible from this side. It's not very well. It has multiple parts. It has like a transaction hash that represents basically the transaction ID. It has a block where it's the block number where the transaction was minted. We have a status of the transaction. We have an address from where it was sent. We have a person who received the transaction. We also have a value. In this transaction, in this case, someone sent 1 polygon to another person. And this is very easy to find. Like, you just go to Etherscan, and if you know a public address, you just have to know the public address, and you will be able to see the entire history of that person. What makes blockchain secure? It's cryptography, decentralization, immutability, smart contracts. I will take some of them and get into deep and see what they are making the blockchain secure. For example, we have the cryptography. And for cryptography, we have hash function and digital signatures. Hash functions are, each block in the blockchain contains hash of the previous block. And this is how the chain is formed. Changing any data would alter the hash and break the chain. A hash function, it's just taking an input like a text or a file, and it will produce a unique fingerprint of that particular data. It's also deterministic, so always the same input will deliver the same output. For digital signature, a user has to sign the transaction with its private key that we talked previously. Immutability. Once a block is added to and validated, it becomes nearly impossible to change. So if you want to change any block in the chain, you will have to have control over the 51% of the network. That's the only way that you will be able to actually change a block in the ecosystem. Smart contracts. The smart contracts are the code that is executed on the blockchain. They are immutable and transparent. It's also known as financial programming. We are coding on contracts. As an example, I have a difference between a Web2 and a Web3 code. So in Web2, we all know classes that, for example, we have here a contract that is vote and the vote class. In a way, they are pretty similar. There are some key differences here. For example, in the function of vote, in the class vote, you will have to send the sender, so you will know who is the person who actually voted in this case. But on the contract side, you don't need to send the sender because you have something called the sender, the music sender, which is always registered based on the wallet who is making the call to the function. So in that case, you cannot alter or change or re-change the sender. Instead, in Web2, if you know a bit of bytecode, you will be able to change the sender. This would be a way of a difference between the Web2 and Web3. Okay, also in blockchain we have some digital assets, and two of them that are very known are tokens and NFTs. The tokens, or fungible tokens, they are digital assets where each token is identical in value and functionality. We have two primary type of tokens. We have the native token, which are used for chain operation. For example, on the Ethereum network, the native token of the network is Ethereum. Also, for example, for Bitcoin, for the Bitcoin network, the Bitcoin is the main token. We also have the token, where tokens are used for whatever the user intends to use them. I write here that tokens are, the creativity is the limit of the usage. For example, you can create a token just because you want to own a currency, for example. You can add your own rules, you can create it however you want. Also, tokens are used in governance. You can create a platform where your token will allow the users to vote. It has a lot of, the rules basically are what you are making it to be. Tokens are used right now usually for fundraising or in-game currency. It always depends on what the product that you will build will want to use. We also have NFTs, which are non-fungible tokens. These are unique digital assets that represent ownership or proof of authority of a specific item, where one is, here in the NFT, each one is distinct. So you don't have like two NFT which are the same. They may look the same, but back in the background, they are totally different. Each NFT has its own ID. For example, it was used for artworks, collectibles, houses, in-game items. Here, for example, a real-world use for the NFTs. For example, in 2023, a property in Croatia was actually successfully sold over the blockchain, and all the documents, all the paperwork were represented into an NFT. So today we actually have a property in Croatia that is an NFT, and who owns that NFT owns the particular property land. This is something that everybody can check. It's a pretty fun use of NFT. Okay, we have in blockchain, as in Web2 we have applications, in Web3 we have dApps, or decentralized application. And here the most common is DeFi, which is the decentralized finance industry. We also have in gaming, we have in health, and in real estates. Health and real estates are still in the part of exploring. It's not yet a final version deployed there, but people are working to bring blockchain into the health industry and also into the real estates. On DeFi, or financial applications, this is one of the most known use of blockchain, because everybody start using crypto, and crypto is somewhere in this part of the blockchain. For example, one of the biggest exchange on crypto is Uniswap, that's on Ethereum. And what Uniswap does is allow you to swap tokens. For example, in a traditional way, you will take your money, let's say lei, and go to the bank to exchange it for euros. Okay, now there are a lot of fees, you have to go to the bank, it's a lot of process to do that. In blockchain, you just go to Uniswap, you connect with your wallet, and you will be able to swap tokens. For example, you will be able to swap from Ethereum to USDT, where USDT is native, it's a token that represents one-on-one comparison with the USD. Yeah, here also we have an example of real use beside scamming people with the crypto. We know that in Argentina they suffered from inflation, and they have the inflation surpassed 140% in 2023, and due to this inflation and the irregularity price, people decided to take their funds and put them into the crypto. For example, they used the USDT. Also, this allowed them to open to a wilder market, not just to their country market, which was very inflational at that time. And this allowed people to protect their savings, access dollar-backed assets without strict banking controls, and participate into the global market. So this was the intention of the crypto, not what actually became. Basically, this was one of the actual use for where crypto came and find a solution. We also have crypto in gaming. Here, it's usually blockchain was created, allowed games to create new ecosystems, models, ownership systems, and player experience. For example, in Steam Marketplace, you will be able to buy items and sell them on the marketplace inside Steam. But if the developer decides to remove your item, then the item will disappear. Using the blockchain, you will be allowed to create an item, and you will own that item. So let's say you decided to not play that game anymore, you will be able to go to secondary market and sell your item. And the developer will not have access to your item to delete it whenever he likes. For example, here we have Gods Unchained and Wolves of Rome. These are two card games that are using blockchain as their internal ecosystem and allowed users to swap cards, to sell cards. The game itself, it only sells packages where you receive multiple cards, and the user will allow with different rarity. And for example, if you bought a package and you have a duplicated card, you will be able to sell it on the second-hand market. Some people use that to make a profit because they were lucky and received a lot of legendary cards, which are much higher price. And also in gaming, for example, because NFTs have a royalty system, so each time a card was sold on the secondary market, the developer also got a part of the transaction, because NFTs have this part of royalty system. In the health industry, we know that IBM is one of the companies that are researching how they can transform everything that's in the health system to make it much more secure and to allow them to not be controlled by one entity. For example, you go to a hospital and they will require you to complete all your data, all your medical problems, and they will keep it only for internal use. So if you go to another hospital, you may be asked to also again complete those data, do all the analysis that you have to do, and they are trying to find a solution in which with the blockchain use, you will be able to go to any hospital and also have your data already there, or you can take your data with you without having to recomplete every form or whatever they will ask you to do. And also it will be kept at, you will be the owner of your data, not the hospital, so they will not be able to sell them to the pharmacy or whatever they may want to do with it. In real estate, we already have the Croatia example where land was sold with NFT, but here there are also other examples where we can use NFTs. For example, let's say even in Cluj, if you want to buy an apartment, they are pretty expensive right now, but you gather with a lot of your friends and you all buy a fraction of that apartment. So each one of you will have a fraction of it. And with NFTs, you will able, for example, if you rent out that apartment, when the money from the rent will come in, each one will receive a part of it based on how much they own, based on the fraction that they own on that. This is another use of NFT in real estate. Okay, now on blockchain, we have also multiple type of blockchains. So how many type of blockchains are out there? We have public blockchains, we have private blockchains, we have federal blockchains, and we have hybrid blockchains. For the public blockchain, and the most used is the public blockchain. The public blockchain is open to everyone, it's fully decentralized, and anyone can read, write, and participate. For the private blockchain, has restrict access and control by a single organization. It's much faster and much more efficient than a public blockchain. Only selected participants can validate and view transactions. Usually the private blockchain is used in supply chains. For example, you inside your company, you would like to keep track of something specifically. And with blockchain, it allows you to make it a bit much more easier than just create it into a Web2 program. Usually people are using the public blockchain because the public blockchain is offering the exact decentralization where everybody can participate, and it offers that trust that Web3 and blockchains are talking about. The federal blockchain, it's controlled by a group of organizations, offers partial decentralization, and it's much more trusted and coordination between known parties. This is more in a direction of institutions like, I don't know, governance, where you would like to know some part specifically. I don't know at this point if someone actually is using this blockchain. Also, we have the hybrid blockchain, which is a combination of the public and the private features. Sensitive and the sensitive data remains private, while the public data is open and has flexible governance and control. I think the hybrid blockchain will be one implementation for hybrid blockchain will be the healthcare, because there you would like to some information to remain private and only the institution to have access to it, and other information you would like to be always public and to have everybody access to it. Okay, now Web3 is not completely perfect, and we have some challenges. And one of the challenges that we have in Web3 are scalability, we have UX complexity, security risk, regulation, interoperability, and adoption and trust. Regarding the scalability, at this point, people are already started to adopt the blockchain, but the layer 1, or the first blockchain that appear, which are the most secure, they are struggling with high transaction volume. That means that the transactions are getting a bit slower to be executed on the chain. Regarding the user experience, we have wallets, we have fees, private keys. Usually it brings a lot of confusion to non-technical persons. If you're non-technical and you look over this, you will be a bit overwhelmed by what everything means, how to use them, how this will help you. A solution for the UX complexity we already start having. It's people are starting to research more into how to bring to everybody, to open it to everybody. For example, MetaMask started to implement much more automation in their apps, so user will not have to think always about how much token they allowed, or to be much more care about allowance. I just realized I not really talked about allowance. For example, in crypto, when you want to transfer some amount of money, you have to allow the contract to use your funds. So back a couple of years ago, it always was set to max. So let's say you wanted to send 1 token, but when you open the MetaMask, it will be pre-filled with the max. That means maybe 10,000 or even more tokens. And it's allowed a lot of third parties to create a contract, ask you to send 1 token, but you allow them to use all of your tokens. So that allowed them to drain your wallets. It happened a lot of time in a couple of years ago. Right now, MetaMask, it's specifically asks you to add the minimal amount and don't allows you to put actually big amounts there. We have also some security risk. For example, one of them are the smart contracts that are prone to bugs and hacks. We have also the users are responsible for their private key, so there is no password reset. Regarding the smart contracts, usually to be trusted and people to start using your system, you have to go through an audit, and all your contracts have to be, or the test coverage has to be 100%. So maybe in Web2 you will be allowed to deploy an app that has no unit test. Well, in Web3 you have to have 100% coverage of your code. Regarding regulation, right now the governance may restrict or heavily regulate crypto and decentralized app. Here in European Union, we already have MiCA, which is the market in crypto assets regulation. So we already started having regulations on crypto that helps builders and have people to grow their businesses. Interoperability, there are already a lot of blockchains out there, and blockchains, they are operated in silos. So for example, if we have Ethereum network, is not really compatible to communicate with the Bitcoin network, but at this point we already see starting developers to build bridges between them. So we have a bridge that will allow you, for example, to transfer funds from Ethereum to Binance network and vice versa. Adoption and trust. It's pretty hard at this point, or hard. It's difficult to get to new people, and due to the information that got out regarding the crypto, and everybody is a bit afraid of it, it's pretty hard to bring the technology and its actual value to the bigger market. Okay, so what did we learn today? There's more to Web3 than just crypto. Blockchain is a fancy word for decentralization data centers. In Web3, your identity is your wallet, so keep it safe. We have dApps like DeFi. Okay. Thank you for your participation, and if there's any, I think we have quite some time for questions. So if you guys have any questions. Or curiosities, anything? Yes?
In your opinion, as someone who wants to make crypto more accessible for people, how do you see it actually going mainstream, and how much time? Mainstream as in real retail, not...
In retail?
Yes, and how much time do you think retail will actually start using it?
That's a very good question. And to answer that, I will answer first with another question. Did you heard about EPSI? Okay, let me explain. EPSI is the European Union blockchain, and starting from next year, 2026, they will enforce everybody to use their blockchain, so use EPSI. And what EPSI will do, it will change everything from e-sign and everything from diplomas, so every university, every school in European Union will have to complain to the EPSI rules. And what that means that everything that's legal paper, like your diploma or your bachelor degrees, will be on the blockchain. And also And why they want to do this? So this is already something European Union has, and there are already people that are working towards this. There are, I think, 2 wallets, one here in Romania that started to grow, to allow people to move their identity there. And also they would like to stop using the e-sign and use the wallet as confirming your identity. So instead of using e-sign, you will use a wallet to sign the documents that we are already using right now. So I think it will be, I'm not sure, I'm not thinking that next year it will already happen, but I know that starting from next year it will get even more adopted because of the European Union and the EPSI blockchain.